Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be on this planet of ours. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates, coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. Welcome everybody to our Emergency Management Associates program tonight. As we have done for many years in the past, we're going to start off this program with a salute to the United States of America and the not only the national anthem, but the Pledge of Allegiance. Will everybody please rise?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now would you make welcome, straight from Washington, D.C., the United States Army Corps Quartet.
Yeah.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Oh yeah! Come on, folks, let them know it.
America's finest, ladies and gentlemen, the United States Army Barbershop Quartet, and before that, the host of the Barbershop Quartet Convention in 2015, giving us the Pledge of Allegiance. We want to thank these fine gentlemen for doing this for us. We've been doing this for over a year and a half now, maybe 2 years, but we want to thank them for all that they do for this program. We want to thank all of our men and women in the armed forces, whether it be the Army, Marine Corps, the Navy, the Air Force, the Coast Guard, the Space Force. Whatever you do, we appreciate you being there, serving our country, serving us. Thank you for your service. We also want to thank those Army and Marine Corps and Navy personnel of our allied armed forces. God bless you all. May you all return home to your families safely after your tours of duty end. God bless you all. Thank you so much for everything you do. Folks, we have a jam-packed program as we have in the past months and years that we've been on the air. But first, we're going to start off with another train wreck today. Yes, another train wreck. This one was in Alabama. Again, it was a Norfolk Southern train. This man here is Alan Shaw. Today he testified before Congress telling us that he was going to improve things. I am wondering what exactly is going on. Okay, let me tell you the facts, and then I'll give you my opinion on what I believe is happening. Just after the train derailed in Alabama, and I mean it hadn't derailed for much more than maybe 30-45 minutes, then the CEO of Norfolk Southern goes before Congress and testifies before Congress about how safe our country's rails are and what his company is going to do to make things better for all of us. 30 Norfolk Southern train cars derailed in Alabama. Around 37 train cars came off the tracks in Calhoun County. That's according to the Calhoun County Emergency Management Agency that I spoke to earlier today. Norfolk Southern and other crews responded to the scene of the derailment this morning. There were no injuries and no reports of leakage of hazardous materials. Also, we have no road blockages. It was reportedly in a wooded area near Iron City Motorway and Angel Road in Alabama. The train originated in Atlanta, Georgia, and it was traveling westbound to Meridian, Mississippi. Norfolk Southern Senior Communications Manager Connor Spielmaker told reporters that 2 of the cars were residue hazardous materials cars, meaning they had previously carried hazardous materials as described by the Department of Transportation. As a federal common carrier, we're required to carry these things that help move America's economy. Of course, doing it safely is our #1 priority. Spielmaker said Norfolk Southern would make sure it learns from recent incidents and that questions about the cause of the derailment would have to go to the National Transportation Safety Board, which also responded to this crash. Now, this CEO, I had him all programmed to tell you exactly what happened, but guess what? His spiel, his testimony to Congress today was erased. It's no longer available online. At least I couldn't find it up to about an hour and a half ago. Anyway, I'm going on. There's more great news to tell you. There's more great news to tell you. This is crazy. Literally crazy. Here's another situation, this time in Oklahoma. This is a Burlington Northern Santa Fe railway that also derailed today. You can't make this stuff up. You literally cannot make this stuff up. This is incredible. Okay? I want to play this for you. This is about 30 seconds. Watch this oil tanker, gasoline tanker.
Yep, that just happened.
Okay, let me back that up just a little bit. I want to show you what is going on. Look where those trucks are. The trucks are on there. Excuse me. Let me back up. There are four wheels on each truck. 4 wheels on each end of every car. The 4 wheels comprise a truck. The wheels are mounted to the truck itself. Look what happened to this car. Let me back it up even more. Okay? Look where the trucks are right here. Okay? Look where the trucks are on the bottom of this car right here. This is a tanker car. Look at them as they go forward. Look at this. Okay? The truck is pushed to the middle of the tanker car. This is very, very dangerous. Okay? This train derailed in Oklahoma today. A Burlington Northern Santa Fe train. I was blown away when I saw this. I have never, in all my years of being around railroads and all of my years as an accident investigator, I have never seen a car that lost its trucks. On this set of cars, this one car right here, this tanker car, the trucks were literally forced to the middle of the car. I have never seen this before. They should be at the other end of the car.
Yep.
Look how the car bounces around. Okay? And by here it's derailed. It's completely gone off the rails. Now, I am not sure, and I have not read anything about this derailment here. I just saw this on film today. There is no supporting dialogue or narrative about what happened here. I will run this down. I promise you that. I will run this down. But here's another incident where the railway did not know what was going on. There's no way in heck, unless the railway had taken the tanker car and lifted it up in the air. There's no way in heck that they would have known that that car was going to lose its tractor. There's no way. Absolutely no way that they were going to know that these wheels on this truck would come loose. But that's how this happened today. The front part of the train uncoupled from this car. Whether the truck was coming apart then. Now the coupler is connected to the truck, so it's possible that the truck where these wheels are started coming apart when the rest of the train separated from this car. But all the rest of these cars behind it were derailed because of this one car. The one car pulled the rest of the cars behind it. They were coupled. Okay?
That's called a train derailment.
Let me let you see this again. See where the coupler came loose from the flatbed there? That flatbed carries either tanks or trucks or cars or whatever on it. Let me back that up again. See this flatbed? That can carry cars, trucks, army trucks and trailers, whatever. That's what that flat car is made for. It comes uncoupled from that tanker car right there.
Yep.
And it completely goes off the rails right there. Okay? And then this part of the train derailed and came to a stop. Okay? That's incredible. I've never seen anything like this happen before. But I wanted to show you what happens. Okay? This is what can happen. And it happens frequently, unfortunately. It happens very frequently. I've never seen it before in my life. And I hope to never see it again. This blew me away. Literally blew me away. Anyway, from here I'm going to talk about a volcano. Aniakchuk volcano. Aniakchuk volcano. This is in Alaska. Okay? Let me enlarge this picture so you can see it properly. Okay? This is the caldera. This is the rim of the volcano. This is in Alaska. This is in the southern peninsula of Alaska. And I'm going to show you pictures of this and pictures of where it is so you'll understand these volcanoes in Alaska. There are about 160 volcanoes in Alaska. That's a lot. That's a heck of a lot. Okay? This is where Aniakchuk is located. Okay? On this particular map, on the east or on the west side, there's Port Hurden. Okay? Port Hurden. On the south end of where this volcano is, we see Veniaminoff. This is another volcano that has erupted in the past, Venema. South of there, we go down to the bottom left-hand corner here, we see Shishalden. Shishalden has also erupted in the past. Pavlov volcano over on the west side. We've seen this one erupt too. And the U.S. Geological Survey Alaska Volcanic Observatory recently had an alert on Pavlov volcano. Today, Aniakchuk has got another alert. Let's talk about this. Okay? Let's talk about this. Mount Aniakchuk is a 3,700-year-old volcanic caldera. It's approximately 10 kilometers in diameter. 10 kilometers in diameter. That's a huge, huge volcano. A huge, huge volcano. I was blown away when I saw this information today. Okay, this again is located in the southern Alaska Peninsula, in what they call the Aleutian Range of Alaska. Although this is a stratovolcano, and although a stratovolcano by composition, the pre-existing mountain collapsed in a major eruption forming this caldera. Look at that caldera. It sits way down inside the rim of the volcano. Aniakchuk is a 6-mile wide, 2,000 foot deep caldera formed by the collapse of a 7,000 foot mountain, lying inland in a region of frequent clouds and stormy weather. Aniakchuk remained unknown to all but native inhabitants until the 1920s. At least 40 explosive eruptions have been documented during the past 10,000 years, making it the most active volcano of the Aleutian Arc. The U.S. Geological Survey has detected a significant increase in seismic activity at the Aniakchuk volcano, prompting them to raise the alert level for possible volcanic activity there. The USGS's Alaska Volcanic Observatory issued a volcanic activity notice saying that the number of earthquakes has recently increased and shifted to shallower depths. That means the earthquakes are inside the volcano. Inside the volcano. Due to this increased activity to above background levels, the Alaska Volcanic Observatory has raised the aviation color code to yellow and the volcanic alert level to advisory. While volcanic activity is possible, the USGS does not believe an eruption is imminent. Now, while I talk about this, okay, I want to show you something else. Okay, let's back this out. Let's go over to the USGS site, to the map. Okay, let's back out of California. Let's go north, ladies and gentlemen, let's go north. Okay? Again, let's go over to Aniakchuk, right here. We don't see anything here. There is no increased earthquake activity right here. This is a little bit deceiving. Okay? This is a great deal deceiving. Okay? Because they don't have anything here. The only increase we have here is up here in the northern, I shouldn't even say the northern part, but the central part of the peninsula. This is Old Ililama volcano. Old Ililama volcano. Look what we have here. This is a tremor, a minus 0.12, meaning that this is above sea level. Of course it is. This is up inside the volcano here. Okay, south of there, we also had a 1.4. Okay, just north of this other one, this is a minus 0.1. Minus 0.1. How about these others right here? Okay, look what this is. This is a 2.4, a minor quake. This is a 0.9 microquake. Further east is a 1.3. Okay, this is near Old Ililama volcano. Okay, they should be issuing an alert level there as well. Those earthquakes are also up inside the volcano. But let's go over here to this area here. We've had a huge swarm of quakes in this area here. Okay, this is near Adak, Alaska. Okay, this is 100 kilometers west of Adak, Alaska. This is another volcano, guys. Look at this. And this is actually two volcanoes. Two volcanoes. But Alaska Volcanic Observatory has not put this up yet. I checked. This is a 1.6. Further north and west, we have a 3.9. A 3.9. This is like 89 miles. 89 miles west of Adak. This is at a volcano. You can see it here. You can see the volcano here. Why don't they list this as a possible eruption coming? This has got all the earthquakes around it. Okay? It's got all the earthquakes around it. Over here is the most recent one. This is a 3.1 magnitude earthquake. This is considered to be a small earthquake. 3.0, 3.9 are considered to be small quakes. Okay? But this is what bothers me. We have a volcano here, but they don't bother putting this up as a possible eruption possibility. Okay? I wanted you to see this. When I saw this earlier, I was flabbergasted. They issue a possible volcanic advisory for a volcano that's over in the peninsula. Yes, there are people that live in the on the peninsula itself. Nobody lives on this island. But this is just as enormous a risk as any of them. Okay? I wanted everybody to know what's going on. Sleeping Volcano is talking about a 3.1 in the Philippines. Folks, we had a 5.4 over there on Mindanao Island, Philippines yesterday. It's no small wonder that we're having threes over in the Philippines today. Okay? It's incredible. Those people ought to be severely worried. This time of year, we have seen 6s and 7s hit Mindanao Island, Philippines. Okay? I've seen it happen. We reported on it here. Okay? We reported on it. People ought to be very worried about what is actually going on. Now, I wanted to talk about this too. Over here along Kamchatka Peninsula, we've seen 5 and 6s hit over here just east of Kamchatka. Okay, right now, I want to show you this. This just happened. Here's a 4.5. This here is a 5.1. Okay, further south, this is a 4.1. These smaller events just happened. Okay, they're aftershocks of this larger quake, which is a 5.1. We had larger earthquakes east of Kamchatka yesterday. Okay, where did they come from? Down here just south of Kamchatka in the Kuril Islands, we had a 6.4. We've had a dozen 5s over here. Okay, It's no small wonder we had those earthquakes yesterday. It's no small wonder we have this 5.1 and these other moderate quakes today. Okay? It's happening. All this energy is going over into the Aleutian Island Ridge and going up into Alaska, where it's going to sit until it blows. Alaska is set. It is set. You can see the number of earthquakes that are being generated here in southern central Alaska. This is serious. This is very serious. Alaska should be bracing for a 7.0 very soon. Very, very soon. Okay? Let's go further south. Over here off the coast of Japan here. Off the coast of Japan. We have a 4.6 moderate quake here. But this is not the only ones. USGS is only picking what ones they want to tell us about. Okay? We go down here into Indonesia. Do you see any other earthquakes here in Indonesia? No. That's because they're so stupid and dim-witted that they're not going to show us any. Okay? They're showing us this one near Timor-Leste. It's also an aftershock of a 6.9 that hit here about 2 months ago. 4.7 here. Over in Papua New Guinea, this hit today. It's another 5.1. Other earthquakes hit here over in Samoa, Tonga, and Fiji today, but they took them down. There's more earthquakes over here in New Zealand, but they have not even put any of those up. See what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? We have to go all the way across the Pacific to the east to find anything. Over here off the coast of Chile, we have a 4.7 off the coast west of Lebu, L-E-B-U, Chile. Okay? Central Chile. Going here to the north, here's another 4.2 near Calama, Chile, in here in the north part of Chile. Further north, this is near Iquique, Chile, or Iquique, Chile. Okay? This is a 4.0. I have real reservations about this area. Iquique, Chile has had an 8.0 hit here about a dozen years ago. Yet this area still is getting hit. Okay? Just north of Iquique. Here's another 4.2. These people that live in this area have been devastated before. Hundreds of people killed, thousands injured from that 8. It's going to happen again. It continues to get hit. Today, they have almost no earthquakes at all here in Central America. That is so bad. There's a dozen earthquakes here in Central America. We go over here. This is southern Mexico. We have a 4.0 here, just north of there. Here's a 4.7 in Palomares, southern Mexico. 2 days ago, we were hit with a 5.1 over here in southern Mexico, Oaxaca, Mexico. I've called that as well. I told everybody, and I have been telling everybody, that southern Mexico was going to be hit with a larger earthquake, and it did happen. But USGS is only showing 2 earthquakes here. There's about 15 in this area of southern Mexico, and they also go all the way up into the Riviera of Mexico. The Riviera area of Mexico being Acapulco, Zihuatanejo, Manzanillo, and even up here towards Puerto Vallarta here. There's earthquakes here, and they're not talking about them. I don't understand it. They are just waiting. They are just waiting for a huge fall when this earthquake strikes there. and it's going to strike mightily. Okay? USGS is hardly showing anything here. This is another fallacy on their part. What happened here yesterday? Here in central Italy, they were hit with a 5.1 earthquake. A 5.1 large earthquake hit here in central Italy. Okay? Marcia, Italy. We've had swarms of earthquakes here, and there's still swarms of earthquakes hitting today. But do you see USGS telling about it? No. They show one lousy earthquake here in central Italy. Yes, it's a 4.3 moderate quake, but there's about a dozen more there, and they're not showing it. They're not showing it. We could still get hit with a larger quake than this. It would not surprise me. Okay? Where are the other earthquakes over here in Greece? Okay? There's also about 30 earthquakes here in Greece. Over here, okay? This is over in Turkey. Here's another 4.1. They're showing one earthquake here. One lousy quake. There are 200 earthquakes here in Turkey that they are not showing. They're not showing. 200 aftershocks a day are hitting this area. Most of them are 4s and 5s. Yes, there's a few 3s and 2s here as well. But most of these are moderate or large earthquakes still hitting. Why is that? Because, folks, just a few weeks ago, Turkey here was hit by a 9 to 10.0 magnitude earthquake. Between a 9 and a 10.0 magnitude earthquake. And they had the almighty gall to downgrade it to a 7.8 and a 7.5 quake. Those quakes were 9.0 and 10.0 magnitude quakes. We are going to continue seeing moderate to large quakes hitting here for years. For years. Usually when we see a 6.5, 6.9, we can see earthquakes hitting there of maybe 4.5 to 5.5 for months and years. Because of that 9.0, 10.0 earthquake that hit here just about 3 or 4 weeks ago, we are going to see, and that was February 3rd. It's been 4 weeks ago. We're going to continue seeing large to moderate quakes hitting this area for years. Turkey and Syria are going to be hit. Some of these earthquakes have been felt all the way down to Egypt and Israel. Palestine area. Okay? It's unreal. This whole area is rocking and rolling literally. The devastation that I've seen pictures of is horrendous. It's horrendous. People ought to be really worried. And then going north into Romania. Romania has also been rocking. Other parts of Europe have also been rocking, and they are not saying a word about it. They're not saying a word about it. We've had earthquakes in Sweden and Norway. They're not saying a word about it. They're showing earthquakes over here in Tajikistan. Here's a 4.0. They're showing this one in Tajikistan also. This one is a 4.5. We've had earthquakes over here in Tajikistan and Afghanistan for a very long time. This is because this is a craton edge. It's the edge of the plate. It's the edge of the plate. But this same plate, let me zoom in here. This same plate goes right straight through this area here. The edge of the plate straddles all the way over to here. That's why this earthquake here in Turkey and Syria has been so serious. Okay? This is the edge of the plate, guys. That's why this is bad. I can't tell you how bad it's going to get. It's going to get really bad. This seismic energy is moving, and it's going to move to a great extent. Europe is going to be torn apart. Africa is going to be torn apart. Okay? Over here in the Atlantic Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean is separating. Okay? The central mid-Atlantic is expanding, and that expansion is pushing the North American continent south-southwest. Everything is being pushed. We've seen earthquakes all the way down here yesterday. Okay? Right here. St. Edward's Island down here with a 5.1 yesterday. We've seen earthquakes down here in the South Sandwich Islands. Every one of those earthquakes here has gone up here into the central mid-Atlantic. This is the South Central Atlantic here. This is This is the central mid-Atlantic here. This is the North mid-Atlantic here. And it continues to go north here. We're going to see earthquakes here for a very long time. Okay? I showed you almost, I can't say there were 5s. I showed you 3s and 4s over here on the East Coast yesterday. And USGS said nothing about it. I showed you the seismograms. We had felt reports from the news stations up and down the East Coast yesterday. I have not even looked into that further today. But they are getting hit. They're getting hit. The East Coast is being pushed west. We talked about the New Madrid fault yesterday. Heaven's sakes, the people around here need to be worried as well. Everybody needs to be worried here. Going over here into Texas, okay? This is Oklahoma here. These Oklahoma quakes here are all oil and gas. But going over here to Texas, Hermleigh, Texas, up until about 2 months ago, we never saw an earthquake here in Hermleigh, Texas. All of these Texas earthquakes, just as much as Oklahoma and some of the Kansas earthquakes, are all oil and gas related. This is a 2.8 today. Over here in southwestern Texas, we are still getting hit here. Toyah, Texas here. This is a 2.5. Further west here is a 2.4. This has been going on for eons, for as long as I've been reporting. Okay? Over here in Southern California, we've been talking about Southern California. Guys, it's happening. Ocotillo Wells, just to the west of here, is getting hit. This is over in western Westmoreland, California. This is a 1.2. After we cross over to the western side of the Chocolate Mountains here, this is Julian, California. Apple capital of San Diego, a 0.8 microquake here. Just north of there, this is also northern Julian. It's a 0.6. This is also on the Elsinore Fault. The Elsinore Fault. What is this, guys? Does anybody guess what this is? This is Palomar Observatory, where the telescope is. It's a 1.5 tremor. You can see these other tremors east of here. This is the Anza Borrego Springs Desert State Park, northeast San Diego County. Tremors galore here. tremors galore. We go north. This is Mentone, California. This is the northern part of the Anza Gap. Here we have a 1.3. Just west of there, guess where this is? Loma Linda, California. Loma Linda, California. We have a 1.2 here. A 1.2 here, and this is just on the west side of Loma Linda. Okay? Loma Linda's had quakes here. We've had a ton of tremors. There is a huge medical center here. The Loma Linda Medical Center. World-renowned medical center here. Okay? Huge complex. We're getting hit here. We're getting hit all over Southern California. Over here to the northwest. This is Carson, California. A 1.6 tremor. Has nothing to do with the San Andreas. Over here, this red quake here that I told you about here, Mentone, California, that's on the San Andreas Fault. There are a ton of ancillary faults all through the Los Angeles Valley, north and south, east and west. Okay? This one here in Carson, California. These are going to continue to happen. This is just north of Malibu. North of Malibu. Most of you have heard about Malibu. Most of you have seen pictures of Malibu, California. Okay? I'm going north here. Okay? Over here, Templeton, California. This is on the Oceanic Fault. The Oceanic Fault. This is a 1.0. Going up here to the north and east, this is again on the San Andreas Fault. Going into, this is just south of San Francisco. Okay? This is Parkfield, California. Earthquake capital of California. Going north from here, this is San Ardo. Also on the San Andreas Fault, a 1.9, 2.0. Northeast of there, this is Coalinga, California. We've seen 5s and 6s hit Coalinga before. This is a 2.3. Further north here, just south of Monterey Bay, this is the Pinnacles, California. This is a volcanic area, and this is also oil and gas. Oil and gas. It's a 2.3 minor earthquake. Going north here, this is on the southern Hayward Fault. This is Morgan Hill. Morgan Hill, California. During the past 2 years, we've talked a lot about Morgan, California. During the pandemic, Morgan, California lost power. Guess what they did? They turned off the power to Morgan, California. They took control of Morgan, California. They instituted martial law in Morgan, California. Nobody could be allowed out of their homes between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. during the dark hours. Yes, the police even made arrests in Morgan Hill, California. Today we have a 1.2 tremor there. That's on the Hayward Fault. You don't see any other earthquakes here? There are, but again, USGS is not showing them. This group of quakes here that we're showing you here, this is the geysers here, the geysers complex. This is a geothermal area, folks, a geothermal area. What happened here? Why are we getting hit here? Man has drilled holes in the crust of the earth here. They've gone into the upper magma chambers of this volcano. This is Clear Lake Volcano. They've gone into the upper magma chambers of this volcano to pull steam to generate electricity down here. To generate electricity in this area. So they can put out electricity all over Northern California. This is Sonoma County, California. This is where we've seen fires. Big monster fires late summer and into the fall, and even just before Christmas 2 years ago. Okay? Great big fires throughout this area. Okay? Right here is one of the buildings that's connected to the geysers facility. Okay? I'm hoping I'm going to run into a complex here showing you the I want to show you the turbines that get the steam to generate electricity here. There's another large building over here in the geysers complex. Oh geez, it's around here someplace here. There's actually 42 turbines down here. 42 different turbines all over the geysers area that take the steam and turn it into electricity. The steam powers the turbines. Okay? Usually I can find them very easily. Right here. This is just one bank of turbines here. Each bank is about 8 turbines. 8 different turbines taking the steam, turning it into electricity, and powering Northern California with it. Okay, 42 different turbines here. Okay, that's 8 of them right there. Now, look at all these earthquakes. Why do we get these earthquakes? Because seismic energy is attracted to cracks in the earth. Seismic energy is attracted to any fault, whether it's natural or man-made. These man-made holes in the ground, seismic energy attaches itself there, fractures of rock inside these holes, causing earth movement. That's why we get these earthquakes here. Down here in this bottom right corner here, there's a small cluster of quakes here. This is called Anderson Springs down here in the southeastern part of the geysers complex. This we have at 1.4, we have it at 1.2 here, we have 0.8, 0.9, this is a 1.4, okay? Going up here in the center of your picture here, center slide, this is a 1.3 here. Further northwest, this is a 1.1, also in the geysers. Just north of there is a 1.5. Usually that's where they stay. Usually that's where we stay. Sometimes we've had as many as 30 to 40 earthquakes here. Today we might have 10 or 12. We've seen as many as 40 earthquakes here. And before we leave here, Clear Lake volcano, we've also seen earthquakes hitting here, caused by magma surging into this volcano, or should I say resurging in. These volcanoes are now to the point of coming back to life. Just a month ago we had earthquakes hitting here at Clear Lake, at the volcano itself. We go north from the volcano here. This is Redwood Valley. Okay? Today we have a 3.0 here. A 3.0. We go north here. This here is the Mendocino Fault area. It runs away from the coast of California and goes almost straight east. This is called the Mendocino Fault. Okay? Out here, there's also 3 other faults that run off the coast of Northern California here. What happens here? You see this red fault that's running up the coast here? This is the northern section of the San Andreas Fault. It comes up here and it junctures together with another fault. Okay? What do you think it is? It's called the Gorda Escarpment, and that runs almost straight west. The other fault here, this is the Cascadia subduction zone. This is a junction of 3 different faults: the San Andreas, the Cascadia subduction zone, and the Gorda Escarpment. This is called the triple junction. Okay? The San Andreas fault runs north along the coast of Northern California, Oregon, and Washington. Oregon and Washington. The Gorda Escarpment, like I said, runs out into the Pacific Ocean. It connects up with another fault called the Gorda Ridge. The Gorda Ridge runs north to another fault, the Blanco Fracture Zone. The Blanco Fracture Zone. Today, we have a 4.2 moderate earthquake up here off the Blanco Fracture Zone. Folks, this is off the coast of Oregon. I think it's Banda, Oregon, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. A 4.2 off the coast of Oregon today on the Blanco Fracture Zone. This whole area here, the Blanco Fracture Zone runs up here to the Juan de Fuca Fault. This whole area here is called the Cascadia Subduction Zone region. The Cascadia Subduction Zone region. All the earthquakes that hit in this area are in the Cascadia Subduction Zone region. When we've talked about the Cascadia megathrust earthquake, we believe that the Cascadia megathrust earthquake will happen right within this area here, between the Juan de Fuca Fault and the Cascadia Subduction Zone, off the coast of northern Washington. Over here towards the coast, between Vancouver Island and Washington State. This is the Strait of Juan de Fuca. The Strait of Juan de Fuca. We have seen a lot of earthquakes in here as recently, very recently, even as of yesterday. Earthquakes are still hitting this area, whether they tell us or not. North and east of here, this is Concrete, Washington. We haven't had too many earthquakes up here in Concrete, Washington to speak of. Today, a 1.5. We go further south. This is northwest from Mount Rainier. In a few minutes, I'll show you earthquakes that hit Mount Rainier today. Yes, not just microquakes, not just tremors, but full-blown earthquakes have hit Mount Rainier today. North and west of Mount Rainier today, Crocker, Washington, a 0.6 microquake. Crocker, Washington, a 0.6 microquake. Then we go south. Wonderful place. Wonderful place. Over here to Mount St. Helens. Good old Mount St. Helens. Mount St. Helens is also another volcano that's getting ready to erupt again. We have a 0.3 microquake here. There have been earthquakes that hit Mount St. Helens today. I'll show you the seismograms and you're going to see it. But the interesting thing about this microquake, USGS is saying that it is 36 kilometers northeast of Amboy, Washington. Guess where it's at? It's at the rim, the southwestern rim of Mount St. Helens. It's not anything to Amboy. USGS refuses to acknowledge where these earthquakes are hitting because they do not want to frighten anyone. They're not telling anybody the truth. They refuse to tell anybody the truth. And I'm going to tell you this right now. For those of you that have been new to this channel, you may not have seen me talk about it. You're going to hear me talk about it right now. The reason that USGS is refusing to acknowledge where these earthquakes are hitting, they have politicians leaning hard on them. USGS people are being leaned on by the politicians. Why? Folks, it's all politics, it's all greed, it's all money. Okay? The politicians are telling these people, oh, don't report this, or don't report the exact location. Because the politicians want to stay employed. If the politicians allowed USGS to really say it like it is, people would be evacuating this area. They would be leaving the Western Washington area in droves. And all around these volcanoes, they would be leaving them in droves. They would be leaving Western Washington. Okay? Now, I've got to reboot USGS here. Again, they've shut me down here on USGS, but I have to have access to this site. So I'm going to reboot here. And lo and behold, I have USGS back. Great. Wonderful thing. But they will not allow anyone to know what's going on here, what is really happening. Everything west, and I've reported on this significantly, I have proven it. I have evidence to prove it. Okay? Everything west of Interstate 5 here in Washington and Oregon is going to be destroyed by the Cascadia megathrust earthquake. The Cascadia megathrust earthquake is over 325 years from separating. 323 years, I should say. It was 1700 when this earthquake last hit. It could hit any day. Scientists are telling people, oh, it's probably going to be 50 years before it happens. Really? Then how come we are showing people, we're able to show people seismograms of what is really happening? They don't put it on the map so anybody can see it. Not everybody has access to this information. But we show it. They still try to prevent us from showing it. If I access it, they keep me from showing it. They take it off. Sometimes after I've gotten it, they take it down off their sites. That's happened. They have scrubbed the information from their sites. I've got information to show you tonight. The Cascadia megathrust earthquake is going to happen. And just like Turkey, it's going to be at least an 8.0 to a 10.0 magnitude earthquake. And I will bet you dollars to donuts that it's going to be a 9.0 to a 10.0 megaquake. Just like Turkey was. Just like Turkey was. Hundreds, if not thousands, of people are going to get killed. Hundreds of thousands of people are going to be injured. Everything from west of Interstate 5 is going to be demolished. Bridges are going to be demolished. Roads are going to come up with great big holes in the ground. Roads are going to be destroyed with fissures that erupt in the roads. The bridges are going to fall. Buildings are going to fall. Homes are going to be destroyed. After the earthquake gets through shaking, within 15 to 20 minutes, we're going to see water draining out of the harbors, water draining away from the beaches and headed west into the ocean. 20 minutes after the earthquake, that water is going to be coming back with a vengeance. There's going to be 100 to 150 feet of water, a wall of water, multiple walls of water. A tsunami is going to happen. Why? Because out in the ocean, a shelf is going to drop just like this. As the Pacific Plate takes a deep dive underneath the North American plate, a great big shelf is going to drop, and that water from the coast is going to rush out to fill that void in the ocean. And then when that water reaches there, it's going to recoil in the form of a tsunami wave, multiple waves. I can't say how many there's going to be. Probably 20 or 30 of them, maybe more. The last time it happened, waves up to Alaska hit. Waves up and down the entire northwest, or not even northwest, all along the western coast of North America. British Columbia, Canada, Washington, Oregon, California, all the way down to northern Mexico. Great big huge tsunami waves. And they're going to destroy anything that the earthquake did not. The waves are going to come in off the water, just like this, barreling into the shoreline, knocking over homes, knocking over the Space Needle, knocking over tall buildings, completely flooding Washington, western Washington and western Oregon, and even California. The earthquake is not just going to stop in Washington and Oregon. It's going to continue south down the San Andreas Fault. It's going to trigger the San Andreas Fault. All the cities and towns up and down Washington and Oregon and California are going to be destroyed. San Francisco Bay Area, Santa Barbara, Los Angeles, San Diego are going to be destroyed by the shaking and the tsunami waves. That's going to happen. That's going to happen. Linda Covington says she watched the video the other night of Japan's 9.0. Maybe I can continue this story of the last time the Cascadia megathrust earthquake happened. Let me tell you a little story. There was a mariner out to sea off the coast of Washington when that earthquake hit. At the time, he said, excuse me, let me get a drink of water. He said that he thought Mount Rainier and or Glacier Peak were erupting, those two volcanoes. The American Indians in Washington and Oregon, they had some records, and they thought it was a great big huge bird, a vulture, that caused that earthquake. Scientists and geologists have done a lot of searching up and down the coast, along the coast and inland. They found ghost forests caused by salt water inundating the coast, destroying the trees. The trees are all black. It's called a ghost forest. Japan. The people in Japan had a great big huge tsunami that hit as a result of the Cascadia megathrust earthquake. They kept great records. They have the date and time that tsunami hit. So we have a very good idea of when that Cascadia megathrust earthquake hit. We have a great idea. It's going to hit again. Some scientists think that it might be 50 years from now. All the evidence points different. I'm saying it could happen within the next 1 to 25 years. I don't think it'll be 25 years. I think we are a lot closer than that. There's a lot of evidence pointing to it. We continue to have major and large earthquakes up and down the coast of Washington and British Columbia. As I pointed out yesterday, there was I think it was a 4.5 or 4.3 up here off the northwest coast of Vancouver Island, out here. I told you what happened in 2019. December 24th, 2019. We had 4 7.0 earthquakes that hit off the northwest coast of Vancouver Island. 4 of them. That night we thought that the Cascadia megathrust earthquake was going to happen. We had 4 major earthquakes off the northwest coast of Vancouver Island. We thought it was going to happen. It could still happen again. We've also seen a 6.8 earthquake that happened right here, just south of Queen Charlotte Island. 24 hours later, there was a 7.1, actually there was 2 6.9s and a 7.1 earthquake that hit Ridgecrest. Folks, we are going to see this earthquake happen. It's literally an amount of time. I promise you that. Wolfman says, even a song, would you buy real estate knowing that? No. No. But guess what's happening here? Guess what's happening, folks? Investors are buying up property here along the coast. They are building condominiums just along the coastlines. Condominiums, police stations, businesses, all up and down this coastline. Literally right across the street from the coast, right across the street from signs that say tsunami inundation zone. Tsunami inundation zone. Do you think I'm kidding? I'm not. Right now, let me go try to find one of those signs. Because when I saw this happen, I started copying information. I wanted to have all sorts of information to show people what was going on. I was blown away what was happening. Because these politicians, these developers are so frickin' greedy. They're so frickin' greedy. They want to lull people in to a dangerous area. They want to lull people in even though they know for a fact what is actually happening and what is going to happen. They know with an assurity that this area is going to be destroyed. I'm telling you folks, it's going to happen. I'm almost there, just a second. Right here. This is an example, guys. This is an example. This is right off the coast of Washington. Right across the street from these signs. Homes are being built. Businesses, police stations, fire stations. But we know that this area is going to be underwater. This area is going to be underwater without a shadow of a doubt. Okay? Without a shadow of a doubt, it's going to be underwater. What do you think of that? Would you want to live along the coast knowing full well that that area is going to be inundated? That's what's happening. Okay? It's going to happen. Right here. Folks, this is a volcano just south of the Canadian border. This is called Baker, Mount Baker in Washington State. Finally, we see some kind of activity here. Finally, we see some kind of activity here. But the problem is they have scrubbed most of the activity off. When we first started reporting earthquakes and seismic activity all over this area, at volcanoes and everywhere, the seismograms were full of activity, full of steam signals, full of earthquakes and tremors. Now, look at this. Up at the top left corner here, these are steam signals. These vertical lines with curly cues are steam signals. Mount Baker, Glacier Peak, Rainier, Mount St. Helens, Mount Hood, Belknap Crater, Jefferson Crater, Sisters, Newberry, Crater Lake, they're all steaming. But you don't often see these steam signals as tall as they are and as descriptive as we see them here. Okay? These are huge steam signals. Huge steam signals. We don't often see them as this tall. However, let's go over here to the bottom right corner of this seismogram. Okay? I want to show you this. I'm going to enlarge this so you can see it. Okay? The seismograms are usually 23 to, excuse me, not seismograms, these magma churn signals. These magma churn signals are caused by superheated magma inside the volcano. These magma churn signals here, and I'm talking about the rectangular figure that you see here to the right, or excuse me, to the left of these vertical lines. These vertical lines here are also steam signals. And I'll explain the steam in a minute. But this magma churn signal is usually 23 to 24 lines high. Look at this one. It's just barely 5 lines high. Just barely. This is less than 22 to 23% of real world. 22 to 23% of real world. What's the bottom line here? Can anybody tell me what the bottom line here is? If we have a magma churn signal that shows us that this seismogram is only 22 to 23% real world, what does that mean? That means, folks, that these steam signals are less than 1/5 the size that they should be. That means Mount Baker is steaming to beat the band. Large monster steam signals, guys. And this is not the only steam signals that they should be showing. Like I said, when we first started showing this at Mount Baker, the entire seismogram from top to bottom, side to side, was covered with either earthquakes and tremors and or steam signals. But yet we see steam signals here, and there's only one earthquake. This one earthquake at the bottom of this seismogram, right here, that's an earthquake. It looks like a 2.0. But imagine, folks, imagine this. Imagine that is 4 or 5 times that size. What does that say? Now we're talking about a 4.5 to 4.8 magnitude earthquake here at Mount Baker. True story. True story. But that's not the only thing here. That's not the only project here that we're looking at. Let's go over here to Mount Shuksan. Or not even Mount Shuksan. This is part of Mount Baker. This is the Shuksan Ski Resort on Mount Baker. What we're showing you here is this. Okay? There's these wavy lines here. The wavy lines are very low frequency wave lines. See these vertical lines here? These are what they call very low frequency waves. They're caused by magma coming into this magma chamber of this volcano. Magma coming into the magma chamber of the volcano. This is Mount Baker. Look here in the center of this slide here. Okay? We're actually seeing magma. Each line here is representative of 15 minutes. 15 minutes. From the top of this seismogram is 1600 yesterday, which is 4 p.m., to 4 p.m. today. Okay? Right here in the middle of this. This is just after 2 o'clock in the morning. 2:30 in the morning on the blue line. These are tremors that happened at Mount Baker this morning. You see these horizontal lines going through here? You see vertical lines here, don't you? Those are tremors being caused by the magma coming into the magma chamber, hitting rock inside Mount Baker, fracturing the rock, causing earth movement, uplift in the volcano. That's what's actually going on. Now there's a lot more of this than they're showing here. A lot of this has been scrubbed from the seismogram because the agency won't show it to us. The agency refuses to be honest about it. They won't show it to us. But you see right here, all the magma that's coming into that volcano. Okay? Now, the machines that record this are called seismographs. Some seismographs are single channel, others are 3 or 4 channel, others are 5 or 6 channel seismographs. they show us different information. Each channel shows us different information. That first seismogram I showed you was a single channel seismogram at Mount Baker. We had to go over to the Shuxon seismogram where we can show you that VLF frequency slide. That one is a 5-channel seismogram. But even on the 5-channel seismogram, the agencies refused to be honest about it. They have scrubbed 90% of the data from the seismograms. It's crazy. But I wanted to show you these two because there's a lot of information there that people should have. People should know about this. Mount Baker is also getting ready to erupt. They've had earthquakes there. They have steam every day. Mount Baker is steaming like a 1950s freight locomotive. Okay? It's happened. It's happened. It's going to continue to happen. They can't stop it. But they can refuse to be honest and show all the data. Let's go over to Mount Glacier Peak. Mount Glacier Peak. Okay? What do we see here? Let me enlarge this and we'll take a look at it. Again, we have a bunch of tremors here. We have 1 or 2 minor earthquakes. Or it says 22 over on the left-hand side. That's 10 p.m. last night. 2200 hours is 10 p.m. If we move over towards the center of this seismogram, we have what appears to either be a 1.9 tremor or a 2.0 earthquake. I believe it's an earthquake. Okay? We see a lot of tremors here, don't we? We see a lot of microquakes here, don't we? A ton of them. Down at the bottom of this seismogram. Okay? I pulled this before 4 o'clock. Okay? But here, on these lines, each line represents 15 minutes. Each horizontal line represents 15 minutes. But on these horizontal lines, we see magma coming into the magma chamber. The thicker the lines, the more magma coming in. It's called magma infill. Magma infill. Okay? We see the magma coming in here. They turn these seismographs so far down, they're not honest with us. Then they turn it up for a moment, and we get this magma churn signal here. Okay? They turn it up for a few minutes. We get this. Okay? This magma churn signal. Let's count the lines here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 lines high. 13 lines high, guys. That is just over 60% of real world. Just over 60% of real world. Imagine if they would have left that seismograph up before that magma churn signal hit. Imagine what we would have seen. Instead of seeing what appears to be just tiny tremors and microquakes, do you think we'd see earthquakes here? Do you think we'd even see steam signals? Oh yeah. Yes, we would. We'd see these thicker lines as well, showing more and more magma coming into this volcano. Now folks, there is only one seismograph at Glacier Peak. They're supposed to be putting 5 more seismographs on this volcano. They haven't yet. Last fall we got word that they were working to put 5 more seismographs on this mountain. because this is a volcano, and they know for a fact that there's more information than they are showing now. But they're not willing to put it out. They want to put 5 more seismographs on this mountain so they can clearly see what's going on, because they know it's going to erupt. It's a matter of time. Why have we not seen 4 to 5 more seismographs put up here yet? I possibly have a reason for that. Because they are waiting for, or they at that time are waiting for environmental clearance to do it. Because there's some animals there. They're called marmots. And I hear that they may be an endangered species. I doubt it. Because there are even marmots that have been taken in people's homes that are pets. They would not allow that if there was an endangered species here. But they have marmots on the mountain. But they say that if we go up and put these seismographs on the mountains, then we're going to disturb the marmot population. Okay? I don't know. I don't know. Each of those seismographs weighs anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 pounds apiece. So they're going to be airdropping them with a helicopter, putting them in via helicopter. So the helicopters are going to make a bit of noise, at least for several days, while they're putting these things in. Then they're going to have seismologists that are up there to set these seismographs in place and get them working. Then, once a year, they're going to have people hike into the area again to assess the seismographs and make sure they're, 1, still working, and 2, make sure they're still up to par, and reset them, and then they leave again. But they say if people go in there, they're going to disturb the marmots. Okay? That's what's going on. I just wanted to give you some clarity on what is happening there. Okay? I've been following this for quite some time. It's not as of yesterday that I started doing this. It's been a long, long time coming. Let's then drop down south over to one of my favorite places. It's called Mount Rainier. Good old Mount Rainier. This is, folks, this is Camp Sherman. Rainier Mount, or Camp Sherman. Okay? Up at the top of this, we're seeing some tremors here, and we're seeing microquakes, and we're seeing vertical lines without any dots in the middle of them. Those small, tiny vertical lines are also steam signals. If they were larger, we would see them with curlicues. Okay? But yes, there's some steam signals here. We also have this wonderful magma churn signal. Mammoth is very hot. Mount Rainier is very hot. Glacier Peak is very hot. Baker is very hot. We've seen magma churn signals. Okay? These magma churn signals are caused, like I said, by very superheated magma. Off to the right of those, we see steam signals. Okay, this particular magma churn signal is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines high. 26% of real world. 26% of real world. Well, glory be. Wonderful thing. Okay? So we know that this seismogram is only 26, maybe 27% of real world. So we're not seeing the truth here. They turned down the seismograph so they're not telling us the truth here. We're seeing these vertical lines with other triangles that are going out to the right side of those. Okay? Right here, they seem to be tremors. 1.5, 1.6 tremors. However, look out to the right side. Okay? What we're seeing there are secondary earthquake waves. The single line to the left is a primary wave. Those triangles out to the right are called secondary waves. That secondary wave is about 5 to 6 minutes long. This tells me a lot. Actually, that's not true. Not 5 minutes. They're about 40 seconds. 40 seconds long. That tells me that this earthquake was not a 1.5 tremor. It was a bit larger than that. We're talking earthquake now. So we're seeing a lot of those here. Anytime we see a vertical line with a dot in it, those are earthquakes, minor earthquakes. The smaller ones are tremors, 1.0 to 1.9 tremors, okay? But these vertical lines that have a triangle going out to the right, those are actually at least 2.0 earthquakes or larger. As we come down here, okay, we go into this afternoon. You can see where it says 12 o'clock, 12 noon on the left-hand side. This is Pacific time, okay? You're seeing tremors and earthquakes here, okay? You're also seeing more and more magma. These horizontal lines here, magma infill signals. Horizontal lines that are thicker and get thinner, or thinner and get thicker, okay? Magma churn signal, or not magma churn, magma infill signals. Look down here at the bottom. This is very interesting. This is showing almost inundation of magma coming into Mount Rainier here. Almost a complete inundation of magma, because the white of the seismogram is no longer showing in a lot of cases. Now, suppose that we were seeing the seismogram even at 50% or larger. Okay? We may not see any white at all, but the bottom of this seismogram would possibly be totally covered in color because there's so much magma coming into this volcano. And into this volcano in these lines here, you're still seeing tiny vertical lines here, okay? Earthquakes and tremors. As the magma comes into the magma chamber here, it's crushing rock. It's crushing rock. It's fracturing rock, causing earth movement in this volcano. Again, it's not just movement of the volcano. This volcano is actually uplifting. Uplifting of Mount Rainier. It's getting higher and higher. More magma, the higher it gets. There's already a bulge, I believe it's on the northwest side of the volcano. I found that out several years ago when we were talking to one of our family friends here, the Emergency Management Associates friends, and they told me that they lived on the side of the mountain. They told me that they helped hikers climb up to the summit. They gave them advice and counsel on what they were doing, making sure they were rightly outfitted to go up the mountain. She showed me pictures at the time. I still have some of the pictures, but I haven't heard from her in over 2 years, so I don't know what's happened to her. I hope she's safe. Let me show you, this is over on the northeast side of Mount Rainier. Let me show you the southeast side. Okay? This is Camp Muir. Camp Muir at Mount Rainier. Look at the tremors and earthquakes here. You can actually see 2.0, 2.2 earthquakes all over this seismogram. Look over here on the left, 6:45 a.m. We go over to the right, about 5 minutes, 6 minutes into the hour. Okay? This would make that 6:50, 6:51 a.m. Okay? What we see here looks to be a 2.2 earthquake. But this seismogram has been turned way down. Maybe about 26, 27% of the real world. This earthquake that happened here that generated that secondary wave going to the right, this was probably a 3.0 to 3.5 earthquake. Yet they have not shown this at Mount Rainier, did they? They've also not shown any of these tremors, did they? They had one tremor northwest of Mount Rainier, not having anything to do with Mount Rainier. But here you're seeing the actual earthquakes and tremors hitting the volcano. The map is deceiving because it doesn't show anything. It doesn't show a darn thing here. Look at the earthquakes and the tremors that are hitting Mount Rainier. It's almost constant. Mount Rainier is getting ready to erupt. With this many earthquakes and tremors, guys, it's going to erupt, and it's going to erupt soon. When Mount Hood looked like it was going to erupt a year ago, they issued an eruption advisory. It went from no advisory at all to an orange advisory. Over 120 earthquakes and tremors hit Mount Hood that day on a Sunday. They thought it was going to erupt, but it didn't. The earthquake subsided. The steaming didn't. Mount Hood is still steaming. Mount Rainier has been steaming. It has not quit. It hasn't quit in years. But we're seeing earthquakes hit here every day. Over here on the right-hand side this afternoon. This is later this afternoon, probably about 3 o'clock. Okay? Let's move over here. I want to enlarge this so you see what we're talking about. Okay? Over here. See that big earthquake there? They have it looking like it's a 2.3 magnitude earthquake. But this earthquake lasted about 40 seconds. Then it has a small secondary wave out to the right. This may have been as much as a 3.5 earthquake. As much as a 3.5 earthquake. You see these earthquakes all over here. What about this one to the left at the bottom corner? Okay, we can't see the bottom of it. This happened just before we pulled this seismogram earlier this afternoon. Okay, look at it. This is evidence of a much larger earthquake. This earthquake lasted at least a full minute. This may have been a 4.0 at Mount Rainier this afternoon. It could have been. That's an awful large earthquake. It lasted a full minute. It also has a secondary wave, and then a minor quake after that. So this tells us that something else happened at Mount Rainier today, this afternoon. With all these other earthquakes, this proves beyond a shadow of a doubt what is going on at Mount Rainier. And I'm telling you guys, this is not necessarily good news. Mount Rainier is getting ready to go. Okay? Plain and simple. I've got one other thing to show you here at Mount Rainier. I wish I could sit here and show you all the information I have. I can't. I really can't. What I'm showing you now comes from Emerald Ridge. The seismogram from Emerald Ridge has been altered, severely altered. It doesn't show anything real, but the spectrogram does. This spectrogram is showing you the rising heat from the magma inside Mount Rainier. This comes from the Emerald Ridge seismograph. It's again a multi-channel seismograph having a spectrogram on it. All over this spectrogram is showing the heat rising towards the surface. And over to the right, the last third of this spectrogram shows amazing heat rising to the surface of this volcano. Do you think this bothers me? Oh yes. And it should be bothersome to anybody that views this. This should be really bothersome to everybody. Because guess what, guys? This volcano is getting ready. It's getting ready. You see it right here. It's undeniable. Scientists can't deny it. Nobody can deny it. That's why I'm showing it to you. Everybody should know this. Let's go over quickly. I'm going to show you a couple of seismograms at Mount St. Helens. This one is coming from the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. This is Studebaker Ridge. A couple of years ago, this was another seismogram that was completely covered top to bottom, side to side, with earthquakes and tremors and steam. Completely covered. There was almost no white at all. No white at all. Now you see white because they have doctored the seismograms. They're playing games. They turn down the machines here. Up at the top, you see some magma coming into the magma chamber, but very little. This seismogram has been turned way down, or seismograph has been turned way down. So the seismogram is not showing you everything. But throughout the day, they turned it up. Throughout the day, they turned this cotton picker up. Look what we have down here at the bottom. The bottom is telling the story here. This is what it looked like, top to bottom, side to side, 2 years ago. Complete color, almost inundating the white. You can hardly see any white at all. Maybe one of these evenings I'm going to pull up a seismogram from 2 years ago and show you what it was like. Okay? Yes, we see some earthquakes. We see some tremors here. But they're not being honest with us. We should be seeing a lot more activity than they are showing here. Okay? That's one. Let me show you another one. Okay? I want to show you September lobe. Actually, I'm going to show you 3 seismograms. I'm going to show you the main seismogram at September lobe. Okay, September lobe is a seismograph that's sitting on spindly legs just like this. They call it the spider. Sitting on spindly legs just like this. Okay? It's on top of the dome of the rock. It's on top of the great big huge volcanic plug of the volcano. And sometimes there is enough seismic energy, meaning earthquakes happening, tremors and earthquakes, that it knocks the seismograph off onto the ground. Then they have to send people up again to reinstall it or put up another seismograph. This seismograph here has shown us earthquakes here at the top, the summit of Mount St. Helens. You're seeing the earthquakes here. Okay? Early this morning, look at this earthquake here. Okay? It looks to be a 2.0 here, right? It's probably larger than that. Look at this earthquake here. Look at that blue earthquake right there. Okay? This was after 8:30 this morning. Probably about 8:09 this morning, there was at least a 3.3, 3.4 magnitude earthquake here at Mount St. Helens. This seismic energy was enough to force its way through the electronic turndown of this seismograph. Because the lines are not thick, guys, the horizontal lines here have not changed. The seismograph has been turned way down, and this earthquake made it through the electronics turndown. That says that this was at least a 3.5 earthquake, maybe larger than that. You can see other earthquakes and tremors on this seismogram, guys. This is not the only data we have. But I want to show you this. The next one, I want to show you the VLF waves. Okay? September lobe also shows us, this is a multi-channel seismograph, it shows us the vertical, or the very low frequency waves. Okay? These curly Q waves here. Okay? This is magma. This is magma that generates these VLF waves here. That's an awful lot of magma coming into the magma chamber. This also proves beyond a shadow of a doubt what they're not telling us. That last seismogram should have showed us a lot more earthquakes. Should have showed us a lot more earthquakes. This is the power that this magma is causing inside these volcanoes. A lot of magma coming into these volcanoes is causing earthquakes, fracturing the rock inside the volcano, causing earth movement. No doubt in my mind that these volcanoes are getting ready to erupt. These are just the volcanoes. I could spend 2 or 3 hours more showing you the earthquakes all over Washington, all over Oregon. Okay, they're happening. But the agencies turn these machines so far down, you're not seeing the real truth. That's what's sad about all of this. Let me show you one more here at Mount St. Helens. Okay? Let me show you one more. This is Sugar Bowl. This is over near the summit of Mount St. Helens. Near the summit. Look at this earthquake here. Okay? Let me enlarge this for you. This is just after 7 a.m. this morning. You tell me. This should be at least a 2.5 earthquake. This may have been a lot larger than that. Again, the seismograph has been turned way down here. This could have been upwards of a 3.0, 3.5 earthquake. Why do I say that? Look out to the right of it. These secondary waves happen because the original P waves were larger. You don't get these secondary waves lasting a full minute, minute and a half unless these earthquakes were larger. And that's what we're seeing here. Yes, we're seeing other tremors. Yes, we're seeing magma, especially up at the top here. Okay? This seismograph started recording at 11 p.m. last night. Over here on the right, up at the top, you see a little bit of magma there coming into the magma chamber. Imagine, if you will, if they had left the seismograph making what it was supposed to make, and that's showing us what was actually going on with this volcano. these lines would be thicker. These lines would be thicker, showing us the actual magnitude of magma coming into this volcano. Down here below this other earthquake here, you're starting to see more and more magma here. They turned the seismograph a little bit up. That's why we see this activity here. This is magma coming into the volcano every 15 minutes. Each of these lines are 15 minutes apiece, detailing what is going on during the entire day here at Mount St. Helens. Again, you can't make this stuff up. This is unreal. It really is. You can't make it up. This is crazy. Okay? But look at the other earthquakes and tremors here. Look at the amount of magma that's coming into this volcano. This is Mount St. Helens, guys. This is Mount St. Helens. They need to respect what's going on here. The public has a right to know. We pay taxes to be able to see what's going on. We pay taxes to these people to be honest with us, so we can have our lives here. If we have to move away, we have to move away. Okay? Let's go over to Mount Hood. This is the north side of Mount Hood, guys. This is what they call Barrett Spur. Just like over at Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens. Barrett Spur was one of those seismographs that was showing us a lot of magma coming into the volcano. It was showing us a lot of tremors and earthquakes hitting the volcano 2 years ago. That's surely what we're not seeing here. Up at the top of this, they've got this machine turned way down. Look at this earthquake here. Okay? Again, this is after 6:45 this morning. This is at least a 2.0, 2.2 magnitude earthquake. However, the secondary waves after it tell us a different story. This again was a lot larger. The secondary wave itself lasts over 2 minutes. This may have been a 4.0 earthquake here at Mount Hood today. Look at all the magma here. Look at all that magma that came into the magma chamber here. Again, this was this morning. If they had had this seismograph turned up to where it should be, right there, the lines may have been totally obscured without anything else in color. All we're showing the rest of the day is just tremors because they've turned it down. They're doing a disservice to the community. Let's take another look at Mount Hood. Okay? I'm going to show you at least 2 more here at Mount Hood. In fact, I'm going to show you the east side of Mount Hood. This is Lamberson Butte. Okay? Look at this. Again, this seismogram was started at 10 p.m. last night. Up at the top, all you see is a little bit of magma coming into this volcano, hit and miss. Okay? Then it becomes more even. More and more magma starts pouring into this volcano. At one point this morning, before 7 a.m., there was a lot of magma. A heck of a lot of magma. Okay? That magma intrusion continued to happen until just after 12:30 this afternoon. Then they shut it off. They turned down the machine, not letting us see what's going on. Right here we have some red lines here. These red lines are generated by the computer. telling the seismologist, hey, this is important. These are earthquakes. These are earthquakes. And if they were showing us the right information, the right turn up, these earthquakes would be much larger. And the rest of these lines, all these horizontal lines would be thicker. But this is only proof that they've turned down the seismograph. It's their own personal reasons. Politicians telling them, don't show them the truth. Plain and simple. Let me show you at least one more. Let's see here. I'm going to show you Palmer Lift because this has the most stories to tell. Timberline shows some magma coming into the magma chamber, but Palmer Lift shows you a lot of magma coming into the magma chamber. This came into the magma chamber just after 2:30 this evening. Not this evening. 2:30 this morning. 2:30 this morning. There was so much magma here that it obliterated the white of this seismograph. Okay? Completely obliterating the white of the paper here on the seismogram. Then they turned it off. There was absolutely no activity at all for hours. Just dribbling activity, that's all. Then at 11:45, they turned the seismograph up a little bit. Up a little bit gave us a 1.5, 1.6 tremor, but look at the magma behind it. Magma behind and after that. That tells us that this earthquake here, this tremor was not a tremor. It was probably a good-sized earthquake caused by the magma coming into this volcano. Mount Hood. Mount Hood, ladies and gentlemen. Isn't that something? And you can see the magma infill here. Look at this. Remember we told you about magma? The thinner lines, less magma. The thicker lines, more magma. You can see it here. Okay? You can actually see the magma coming into the magma chamber during this time period. This was after 3 o'clock this afternoon. Okay? And you can see it here. You can see it here. If they would only leave the seismograph alone, you would see more and more magma coming into this magma chamber. Mount Hood is a very strong mountain. It's a strong volcano. It's a very active volcano. Like I said, I think it was just about 2 years ago, year and a half ago, this volcano looked like it was going to erupt on a Sunday. On a Sunday. We came on the air and told you about it. We kept everybody informed as to what was going on. We got the alert from the USGS. Okay? Crazy as it is, it happens. Okay? Mount Hood is very active. Newberry volcano. Let's go over to Newberry. Okay? This is pretty poor too, because the scientists, the seismologists have turned this seismograph down too. Okay? At one point today, let me show you, they turned the seismograph off. You can see it here. They turned the darn thing off. And they kept it off. They turned it on for a few minutes and turned it off again. For over 45 minutes. The seismograph was off and on, but just barely showing any kind of activity. The power on it was turned very far down. Okay? It just barely showing any kind of activity at all. Sad. It's very sad. Okay? That's Newberry Volcano. Let's show you Sisters Volcano. Okay? Sisters Volcano is not just one volcano. It's three. Three different volcanoes. Sisters North, Sisters Central, and Sisters South. Three different volcanoes. However, there's only one seismograph monitoring those three volcanoes. This is not very accurate, is it? It can't be. There's no way it can be. Okay, but look what we have here. Magma coming into the magma chambers here. You can see it here. But again, they turn these things so far down that you cannot adequately see everything. Earlier last year, they turned it up. They let us see what was going on because it looked like Sisters Volcano was going to erupt. So they let it go. Down here at the bottom especially, you can see a lot of magma coming into the magma chambers, and you can also see the tremors and quakes happening. But it is so far turned down it's not funny. That's Sisters Volcano. Let's go further south into South Central Oregon. Okay? South Central Oregon. Usually, Crater Lake usually has at least one seismograph that's not bothered or not severely bothered. Folks, there are 4 seismographs at Crater Lake. 4 seismographs at Crater Lake. This one is over on the northeast side of the lake. This is called Cleetwood Cove, CLCV. Okay, Cleetwood Cove seismograph. Fortunately, you can see some magma coming into this magma chamber, but there's a lot more. If they would let the seismograph tell the story, you would see more magma pouring into this volcano. And yes, we have seen it in the past. And we've seen earthquakes and tremors hitting here. But on this seismograph, it's not allowing us to see it. It's turned way, way far down. It's not going to be history because they are not being honest. How could it be historical when they won't show it? Okay? That's the truth. Mount Shasta today. I want to take you into Northern California before we end this thing. Mount Shasta today has been bothered. They have 10 seismographs all over that mountain, but they only have 2 seismographs showing any kind of accuracy of what's actually going on at the volcano. Let's look at this. This is the only seismograph that's even being partly honest. Okay, look at the top of this seismogram. Look at that. Look at that. That's heavy, guys. This is heavy. This is earthquake activity at Mount Shasta. There's also some steam coming in here as well. There's steam leaving this volcano, but there's a lot of magma here. These are earthquakes and magma hitting this volcano. That is just last night, since 3 p.m. yesterday evening. Okay? This is up until about 1945, which is 7:45 p.m. Then they turned it off. Look at this. They turned the cotton picker machine off. It did not record anything. It didn't record anything until after 9 a.m. this morning. And even then, there were times that they turned this machine off. This is just barely recording what is going on. This is just barely recording what's going on, guys. This is insanity. This is complete... Oh, I'm not even going to say the word. I'm disgusted. They know that these volcanoes are getting ready to erupt. And they don't want anybody to be the wiser. There's only one other seismogram. It's not telling the story. The other seismographs have been turned off. 10 seismographs at Mount Shasta. One of them has a lot of information, but they turned it off as well. The other seismograph, they turned it so far down you can't see anything. Okay? This is what we've seen at Mount Shasta before. Let's go to work at Mount Lassen. Okay? Guess what? Mount Lassen doesn't even show up today. They turned every one of the 10 seismographs off. There is nothing to show at Mount Lassen at all. Nothing. They turned it off. Plain and simple. Turned it flat off. Sad. Sad. But that's what is going on in the Cascade Mountain Range. The Cascade Mountain Range comes up into southwestern Canada and goes all the way down into northern California. Now, we are still looking. Everybody should be looking for at least 2 4.5 or larger earthquakes in the Cascade Mountain Range. In the Cascade Mountain Range. 2 moderate earthquakes, 4 moderate or large earthquakes, 4.5 or larger. And if we get those, and or an eruption of Mount St. Helens, Mount Rainier, or Glacier Peak, then we know that the Cascadia megathrust earthquake might be 2 weeks away at best. That's what we're looking for. Even Rainier or Glacier Peak, if either one of those volcanoes erupts, you better be aware of what is happening. You better be aware of what is going on. Because you may be only 2 weeks away from having your property destroyed by shaking and or water. You've got to be aware of your surroundings. If you have the possibility of evacuating at that point in time, you better be ready to go. You better be ready to go, because that is the bottom line. We've talked about Cascadia a lot in the past weeks and months. We're going to be talking a lot more about it. But right now, my primary focus on at least Fridays. Yesterday I spent time talking about the New Madrid, because we hadn't talked fully about the New Madrid in some time. But I showed you all of those earthquakes hitting the East Coast. I showed you all those larger earthquakes hitting the New Madrid Fault. It's getting ready to go too. This whole country, guys, is getting ready to come apart. Okay? Rochelle D is saying, I thought these departments, the people, were into data. Oh, they are. But the politicians are telling them to shut up. The politicians are telling the scientists to shut up and not let anybody see what is going on. Now that I've said that, it's not the everyday desk people that are doing it to us. It's the management. It's the management of USGS and the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network that are doing this. I've told you from the beginning of the night what is going on. I've shown you the tsunami signs that are up along the entire west coast. They know what's going on. They're still building homes. They're still building fire stations, police stations, and businesses along the coast across the street from tsunami inundation signs. They know what's going to happen. The people buying property there are going to see it destroyed or possibly get killed themselves. Fact. There's only been one school in Washington state that's taking some precautions and building a multi-story school so that when the earthquake hits, the people in the school will go up to the upper stories of the school to stay safe and out of the water because they know what's going on. It's the politicians that are keeping people from knowing exactly what is happening. It's the politicians that are lying to the people. They want to stay employed. They want to stay employed. Why? Because if people really knew what was happening, they would be moving out of there right now. And with people moving out, the businesses would go bankrupt. They would be closing their doors. With the residents leaving and no businesses there, there's no tax base. If there's no tax base, the cities and towns would dry up. There would be nobody to pay the utility bills, nobody would be able to repair the streets, nobody able to keep the traffic lights on. If that case, the politicians and everybody in the city, their jobs would evaporate. They would lose their jobs. So the politicians have told the USGS, the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network, oh, don't put this information out. And they have even taken enormous steps to make sure that the truth doesn't get out there. They've doctored the seismograms. They've doctored the seismograms. They're turning off the seismographs. Heaven forbid we know the truth. Plain and simple. We've seen it this way before. This is not the first time. This is not the first rodeo here. Okay? They do not intend on being honest with anybody until it's too late. They want a paycheck until they can no longer get it. That's what's so bad. That is what's so bad. Kimberly Hopkins says she's on grandma duty. Well, that's wonderful, Kim. That's awesome. I applaud that. Rochelle's asking, when this thing goes, won't their equipment and offices be destroyed? A lot of it will. You're absolutely right. For instance, let's take for instance, we looked at Glacier Peak, didn't we? There's one seismograph on Glacier Peak. When that mountain erupts, the seismograph will be destroyed. The lava will come down the mountain. It'll destroy the seismograph. A lot of stuff will go away. They know it. They know it. But they have to keep those things up there until it happens. What happened at Mount St. Helens when that erupted? It took out their seismic equipment, didn't it? But it didn't take them long to put it back up there. Once things cooled down, once things settled down, they put the machines back up, and they're up today. But it's going to happen again. Okay? Are you ready? Are all of you ready for what's going to happen? We've talked about this. We've talked about having a plan. Has everybody written their emergency plan? Are you sharing this program with as many people as you possibly can? You should be, because we can save lives here. We can share this information. We can share this channel worldwide, so more and more people have this information. We talked about earthquakes worldwide earlier. We talked about trains derailed. Trains that derailed. Yes, there were even trains overseas that derailed. Fact. There were trains in Australia derailed. Did you guys know that last week and the week before there was a huge cyclone in terms of a full-blown hurricane? Cyclones or hurricanes over in Australia, over in the southern hemisphere. A huge cyclone battered New Zealand and Australia. Yeah, like this. This is Queensland, Australia. The roads and bridges are inundated with water. Inundated with water. Oh yeah, it's happening everywhere. This kind of stuff is happening everywhere. Okay? I don't know what else to say. There's only one other thing that I want to talk about tonight. I want to play this video for you. This is very important. This is going to last about 4 minutes. But I want you to see what is actually happening, guys. This is very, very, very important. I can't stress enough how important this is. Let me play this video for you.
So you're telling me that Biden's policies on the southern border are actually creating American or slaves from around the globe. Is that correct?
Correct.
Wow. So the Democrats who accuse us of all the awful things that we do, they're actually enforcing policies now that are creating slaves in this country.
It's lending to that right now.
So not only are they creating slaves, but I also heard, and this I found this rather intriguing when I was on the border, if somebody was coming across the border and they actually didn't have the money and they didn't want to be an indentured servant, is it true that they can backpack now heroin, fentanyl, and cocaine and pay that passage? Is that an option as well?
That is an option.
So the Democrats' policies, two things now. So they're creating slaves and drug mules. Is that where we're going with this? No wonder they don't want to come talk about it, right? So we now that we've got this issue of slaves and drug mules, I want to change over a little something I saw. And you guys, this is troubling to me. Is I went to Fort Bliss, the Emergency Intake Center. You guys heard of this? Fort Bliss, to handle all the unaccompanied minors coming to this country. And as I was there, the admiral's running it, and I'm like, sir, why don't we send these kids? These are unaccompanied minors now, back to their home country, back to their town. And the admiral said, well, they don't know where they came from. So these kids are from, I saw one, I know he's probably no more than 5. And I saw some probably, the average was 16, 17-year-olds. So they're saying these kids, these unaccompanied minors, do not know where they came from. I said, well, where are we going to send them to? Oh, we're going to send them to a Google address in the United States of America. Then we don't background check the people we're sending them to. So one of my friends here, I remember earlier, hit on this. We are actually, with taxpayer dollars, are now trafficking children, and we're paying to get them there on American taxpayer dollars and put them in God knows what and God knows where. And so the thing that really, I think Andy Biggs has mentioned this, Rep. Biggs, is, y'all, we've lost 20,000 children. Mayorkas said himself in a hearing he does not know where 20,000 of these children are. And that's just staggering to me. So Sheriff, have you, as you begin, is it mostly heroin and cocaine now and fentanyl, or is it just mostly fentanyl?
Unfortunately for Arizona and California right now, we're the worst and the top as far as fentanyl, and below that is methamphetamine. And to address your other comment, what you're looking at is a ploy by the cartels marketing a way to work with Mayorkas on the reunification policy that he put into place. So if you send your child across as a child that's by themselves, then you can be reunified when you come at a later date and time. So the cartels are exploiting every policy that this administration has put into play.
And it's almost like they're better at the game than we are, right? I mean, they know before we know what's happening. I know that they're talking about the new rules that the Biden administration won't enforce, and basically that just adds another step. But my understanding last night, I was talking to one of the border agents, is once the illegals, when they cross into the country, they want that MTA, that motion to appear in court. Is that correct? Now, Mr. Lyons, could you tell me for sure, when they get this MTA, does that automatically qualify them for benefits?
Yes, it does.
Okay, let me stop right here, and we'll continue in just a second. The MTA is a motion to appear. When these people are vetted and they are allowed to continue into this country, and I'm talking about those people that have gone through the port of entries. I'm talking about the people that have gone through the port of entries. The others that escape across the border, who knows where they're headed? Most of the time we don't. But when these people go through the port of entry and they're vetted, they are given what they call a motion to appear, signed by a judge. Usually it's about a year and a year or a year to year and a half after they've crossed the border, after they've additionally crossed the border. Then they go into the interior of the United States, and many times, about 9 times out of 10, they never appear back in court. They're settled into the interior of the United States. They assume a complete different identity, and they disappear in the system. Anybody that comes across here at the border, they assume a different identity once they get to the location where they're going. That way, they completely avoid the process of immigration. What happens then? There are judges that have issued arrest warrants for those people. But many times, those warrants never get filled. Those people never get found because they have assumed other identities here in the United States. Millions of people do that every day. That's what they're talking about here.
So you're telling me they come into the country, they turn themselves in, and then they get the MTA, and they are qualified for benefits from the American taxpayer?
Yes, sir.
Do we have any idea how much those benefits run, or how? Any idea? Have you heard that, Mr. Lyons?
Up to $800 a month.
$800 a month. And so I understand too. We give them a cell phone.
Yes, we
Have
do.
y'all heard that we actually give them a cell phone? My kids would probably rather come across the border, honestly, sometimes.
Yes, sir.
So we give them a cell phone that they can jailbreak and use it however they want. My understanding. Go ahead, Lyons. I'm waiting. I want to hear what you got to say.
Well, it was just they give them that phone so that they know where they're at. But we have a 95% failure rate to appear for those motions.
So you mean they take our phones, but they don't take our phone calls? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes,
that's
sir.
going on?
Yes, it's the worst state.
Man, that does sound like my kids.
Yes.
Now, Doc, one last thing, and then we'll get off, and I'll give Mr. Jordan. I didn't have a time over here, Jim. Am I overtime?
You're definitely
Benefits continue,
I'm
Mr.
definitely
Moore.
overtime.
But the benefits continue.
The chairman says I'm definitely overtime.
You
So,
can
Doc,
ask your last question.
Last question, Doc. So, 100% of the immigrants, when you deliver the children, you have to give them car seats. I understand. So, because the federal government requires you. Isn't there some rule that says you can't send a child away from hospital without a car seat?
Correct. CMS rule, we cannot do that.
So we're buying all the car seats as we send them on the way and paying for all the health care, and you're $26 million in debt, basically.
Correct.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay? That's what's going on, guys. You saw it. There was a sheriff there. There was someone from Homeland Security there. There were representatives of a city there that wanted to know the truth. They got the truth. This is what's happening at our borders. This is what's happening at our borders. Rochelle D asked about those politicians and scientists that live in the areas where these earthquakes are happening, where the volcanoes are going to erupt. Oh yeah, they live in these areas, or shall I say, they own property and they moved back to Washington. They moved east to Washington so they could tell us what to do. So when their property is destroyed over here, they don't have to worry about it. They have gotten paid. They've not only gotten paid, but if they end up out of work, they've also got a pension from the United States government for time served. Well, they've been a senator or a congressman or whatever. So they're getting paid while everybody else is dying or injured or doesn't have a job because that area was inundated and destroyed. That's what's going on. Now, with this border situation, I wanted to show you this because there's a reason. Okay? There's a reason. This country is going to heck in a handbasket. It really is. We've seen 2 people from Texas be killed by the drug lords in Mexico. 2 people were released from custody of the drug cartel only because we found them and got them back. Otherwise, those people would probably be dead or slaves of the drug cartel, just like this last gentleman said. Slaves down in Mexico. That's what's going on. The drug cartels are shipping all that methamphetamine and fentanyl into the United States. The last seizure had enough fentanyl to kill every person within the United States dead. Every citizen and more in the United States dead. Just the last shipment of fentanyl. And there's a lot more fentanyl out there. I see stories every day of overdoses and fentanyl deaths from fentanyl coming across the border. It has to stop. But the problem is this. Our government is heavily involved in it. Our government is not going to lift a frickin' hand to stop it. Because as soon as we do stop it, these people at our government are going to get slapped up by the head because the drug cartels down in Mexico or Colombia or down in Venezuela, they're going to rattle the saber. Oh, so-and-so was involved. So-and-so was involved. And guess what's going to happen? All of a sudden, our presidents, our senators, our congressmen are going to go to jail. We could stop this right now. Mark Levin did a program on YouTube. You can go back and see it. He recorded it yesterday. He did a program about this same thing, where he talked about those 4 people, the 2 that got killed and the 2 people that are still in hospitals in Texas. We could stop it. We could send our military in there. We have intelligence right now. We know where the drug cartels are. We know their bases. We know exactly where they're at. We could knock it off in one fell swoop. We could send our military fighters and our bombers into that area and take them out. It's a war zone. It's actually a war zone. The cartels have turned it into a war. Some of their cartel members are here in the United States as well. But we could end it. We could end it today by sending our military in F-16s, F-18s, F-22s, and B-2 bombers. We can send them in and target those areas and annihilate it and stop it right now. But it won't be done because Washington is involved. Period. Yes, Don Patoka is here in the chat saying coming from China. Yes, some of it is. Some of it is. But we see Chinese immigrants that flew in to Mexico. We see them dropping their identification cards in Mexico right near the border and then crossing into the United States. We see it. We have it on record. Folks, it's not going far. But folks, we're going to heck in a handbasket. I encourage everybody here within the sound of my voice, do not, absolutely 100%, do not cross into Mexico for any reason. No reason, shape, or form. Don't fly into there, don't drive into there, don't walk into there. Shut Mexico down. Shut them down. Milagro says, yeah, a total scourge and ousting of the current system. I agree. That's what it's going to take. We could end this drug war now. It would be over now by bombing that area out, strafing it out, and then the President of the United States going on the air nationally and internationally saying, we have sent our military in there, strafed and bombed those cartels out of business. And we will continue to do so until it stops right now. They will never kill one of our citizens again. You will not kidnap or murder any more of our citizens ever again. You will not ship another ounce of methamphetamine or drugs into the United States again. But that's not going to happen because the same politicians are in it up to their ears. True story. It's up to us to stop it. Up to us. We don't have to patronize Mexico. We can help turn it off. We can also tell our politicians, if we find out you have anything to do with it, you're toast. We can knock them out of sight too. Promise. Anyway, guys, that's our program. I wanted to give you that information for something to think about. It's honest. It's true. You don't have to go very far to find out. We tell you what's going on. We talk about emergencies. We talk about disasters all over the world here on Emergency Management Associates. We always have. It's not going to stop. Now, this is the end of the program. I want to share something with you, something more positive, something more spiritual. Everything we talked about today has been physical. Things happening everywhere. I'm going to the first epistle of John, chapter 1, verse 3. That which we have seen and heard and declared we unto you, that ye also may have fellowship with us. And truly our fellowship is with the Father and with his Son, Jesus Christ. Verse 5. This then is the message which we have heard of him, and declare unto you, that God is light, and in him is no darkness at all. Verse 7. And if we walk in the light, as he is in the light, we have fellowship one with another. And the blood of Jesus Christ, his Son, cleanseth us from all sin. And we say that we have no sin, we deceive ourselves, and the truth is not in us. If we confess our sin, he that is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. If we say we have not sinned, we make him a liar, and his word is not in us. Brothers and sisters, I have given you the truth tonight. We have the power within us to know who Jesus Christ is. We have the power in us to change ourselves and to do that which is right. We have the power within us to acknowledge Jesus Christ, to take us up, or take upon us his name and do his work, to love and help each other, to be able to return to our Heavenly Father. We have it within us. We can change the world if we will but let him change us. May God be with us this day and always. I love you all. I care, or I would not even be here. That's you can take to the bank. That's the truth. May God be with you. Everyone, please share this program far and wide. Okay? We have nearly 600 subscribers now. Actually, I'm sorry. We have nearly 400 subscribers. Okay? It says 361. We actually have a lot more than that. I checked. We nearly have 400 subscribers in just over 2 weeks. We can double that even by this weekend. We can double it going into next week. Please do that. Go and look for those people that were with us before we had to change channels. Bring them here. Let them be knowledge of the truth with us. Bring them here so we can fellowship with them. Tell your families, your extended family, your friends, your neighbors, the people you associate with and on social media as well, and the people you associate with at work. Tell everybody about this channel. Show them what we talked about. Have them subscribe to our channel. Bring them into the fold. Bring them into the fold. I promise you we will all be blessed for it. Now, guys, I hope you have a good night and a better tomorrow. That's my prayer for everybody. God be with you till we meet again. We will see you on the other side. Good night, everybody. Much love. I care about you. God bless. God be with you till we meet again. Good night, everybody.